Prime Minister Corbyn. Amazing as those three words may seem, they can no longer be dismissed as a nonsense. Since the exit polls of 8 June, when it became clear that Theresa May's great election gamble had backfired, we have been learning to live with the possibility that the Labour leader may end up in Downing Street. Much has been said about the path that led a politically crippled far-left electoral liability to the brink of national power. May's mistakes, his campaigning talents, the rebellious mood of voters who resented being told to opt for something as vacuous as May's strong and stable leadership. Less thought has been devoted to the task that lies ahead of Corbyn if he wants to seal the deal and become PM. Like all forms of celebrity, Corbyn mania has been a primarily emotional phenomenon, the grafting of a mood onto a personality. And, to be fair to the Labour leader, he has ridden this wave with assurance and panache. As sick as the electorate gets with long-serving governments, it remains hard to dislodge them, but none of this alters the fact that he still requires 64 more MPs to cross the threshold of 326 seats and ensure a majority in the House of Commons. Winning 30 more seats than Ed Miliband in 2015 was a remarkable achievement. But the final surge required of Corbyn is much more than one final heave, the easily applied coup de grace to an already dying opponent. It is a fundamentally different political challenge. Donald Trump and Jeremy Corbyn prove it's not about left versus right. I am not sure the Corbynistas grasp this. As children of Marx, they believe that history has a direction and that at last all is falling into place. In their view, the public is finally awakening from its false consciousness and embracing the indisputable truth of full-blooded socialism. They interpret the June election not only as a vindication of their faith in Corbyn, but as just another pit stop on the road to a long-promised New Jerusalem. But if post-war history has a lesson, it is that the final phase of the journey to power is disproportionately difficult. Go back to 1992, an election which Neil Kinnock was expected to win and did not. The Tory majority was only 21 and had disappeared entirely by the end of 1996. Having been governed by Conservatives since 1979, the country was desperate for a change. Yet it took the party reforms of John Smith and the turbocharged modernization of Tony Blair to persuade the voters to let Labour have a turn in 1997. Getty Images look back to the election of 1964. The Tories had been in power since 1951. But even with the Profumo scandal, the mishaps of Harold Macmillan's later years, the uninspiring premiership of Sir Alec Douglas-Home, and the dynamic leadership of Harold Wilson, Labour only scraped home with a majority of 4. As sick as the electorate gets with long-serving governments, it remains hard to dislodge them. Why so? Because the voters are not stupid, quite the opposite. In fact, they know the difference between impassioned protest and day-to-day government. They applaud natural tribunes of the people like Kinnock and Corbyn. But they do not necessarily trust them to manage Whitehall. It is one thing to express the grievances of the country, quite another to govern it. All the winners and speeches of the GQ Men of the Year Awards 2017, to complete his journey to PM, Corbyn is going to have to convince the voters not only that the Tories are useless, but that he has what it takes to run the economy, improve education, reform social care, make the NHS ready for the demands of the 21st century, fight extremism and defend the nation from its enemies. Not easy. In spite of appearances, Corbyn's task in the next election is infinitely more demanding than it was in June. He has come a long way, further than most believed possible. But the last lap of this great race will be by far the hardest. Getty Images. Jeremy Corbyn's voting record. The election result has afforded Corbyn some much-needed gravitas, but his long record of voting either against his own party or against the popular consensus may yet spell trouble. 1997 voted against legislation that would have granted terminally ill patients the right to end their own life. Don't believe the Jeremy Corbyn student debt spin. 2000 opposed a Labour government bill that gave police power to detain terror suspects for up to 7 days. Pubstat has voted a further 16 times against anti-terror laws. 2005 voted in favor of reducing the voting age to 16. Had it gone his way that time, he'd have even more of the youth vote on his side. 2014 the Data Retention and Investigatory Powers Act was passed by 449 votes for to 33 against, including Corbyn's. It gives emergency access to phone and internet records. 2015 voted against Labour's manifesto promise to renew the UK's Trident nuclear weapon system. Like this now Donald Trump and Jeremy Corbyn prove it's not about left versus right. Theresa May will certainly survive 2017. Don't believe the Jeremy Corbyn student debt spin how Labour can win the next general election.